on the Rubin Report.
We will bring oversight and accountability.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Bill that enfranchises half of the population.
Show that you're a citizen of the country that you're voting in.
Paper ballots, because Russia can't hack a piece of paper.
Paper. Alrighty, this is the Rubin Report. I'm Dave Rubin. It is April 2nd, 2026. You've shared, you've subscribed, you've tapped that notification bell, and I'm going to call it right now. We have a classic Rubin Report for you today. It's just got a little bit of everything, a little bit of politics, a little bit of culture, a little bit of media, a little bit of serious, a little bit of funny. It's going to be an enjoyable hour. Strap yourself in. Here we go. Obviously, you know where we're starting. Trump gave a major address to the nation last night on where we are at with Iran. His argument is that we have completed our military objectives and that we are about to enter a new phase of this thing, which hopefully will not take too long. Don't take my word for it, take his.
Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding.
Okay, so we're going to show you a bit more, but obviously there's a few interesting things here. First off, right now as it stands, I think we're day 32 into this thing, roughly. Iran, in response to the American and Israeli attacks, obviously has lashed out to over a dozen Arab and Gulf states. They are basically out of missiles. They're just firing random stuff. You know already that their Air Force is gone. The Navy is largely gone. They've got some bombs and traps in the Strait of Hormuz, which we're obviously going to deal with. But basically Trump's saying, look, this was the idea here was not regime change in the way that everyone thinks of regime change, like we're getting rid of Saddam and then we're installing new leaders in Iraq, or what we did with Libya or something like that. But, you know, the Ayatollah is gone and all of his friends are gone and the next tier is gone and the next tier is gone. So as Trump said, we will deal with a new regime. It's still a little unclear to me who that is. I think we are going to find that out. Well, not I think. We obviously will find out who these people are, what kind of authority they have to be negotiating, and to have legitimacy with the people, and hopefully they'll be far more liberal in the right sense of liberalism and more respectful of minority rights and not, you know, run the country like radical Islamist mullahs. That would be, I would say, low-hanging fruit. But he said he wants them to be more reasonable, and it will, so in that sense, it is a regime change. But if they do not come around to what we are demanding of them, there will be more attacks. And he's saying we still got 2 to 3 weeks of hardcore attacks. So this is Trump 101, right? Like, how do you negotiate? You negotiate by using strength. I mean, this is carrot and stick stuff, right? The stick is that the bombs are going to keep coming. The carrot is, oh, now we have people to talk to. Let's figure out a way to talk. But you don't just immediately say, okay, we're done applying pressure, because then people have no vested interest in negotiating in the first place. We're going to show you a couple clips of Scott Jennings today. Here he is after Trump's speech, talking a bit more about the diplomatic part of it and what will happen to the nuclear material, which obviously is kind of where this whole thing started years ago, that Iran was never going to get a nuclear bomb.
I think what went unsaid tonight, but what I assume is happening in the background in these diplomatic conversations, is that part of the way this is going to end is hostilities will cease at some point. We'll have some kind of diplomatic end that has to include getting the nuclear material. He didn't say that tonight. I hope that would be a great scenario if it works out that way.
He didn't say that.
And he also didn't say
I mean, he did not say that. And it's more than just that he didn't say that. He actually proposed an alternative, which you just pointed out, which is that we would just perpetually surveil and bomb them if they ever attempted to get the nuclear material that is still in their territory.
All right, first off, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, our little intro there, which used to be, as you know, Scott and the R word, but I am trying to clean up the language a little bit here. We've officially changed it, at least for now, until there are extreme times when we have to bring that one back. It is now Scott and a group of people who aren't as bright as him. So keep that in mind going forward, and that was perfectly illustrative of that. We will see, right? You don't say everything. This Abby Phillips, all these people, their analysis is just, it's so thin. It's just like nothing. It's just wet nothingness. It's a wet paper bag that you could just flit away like that. Like, you don't tell everybody exactly what you are doing as you negotiate. You keep military pressure on as you negotiate. Now, interestingly, he talked about the nuclear material there. So Iran, right before this war, told the negotiators, Witkoff has told us this, that Iran was enriching uranium at higher levels they had told us, and that they were on their way to 11 bombs. Now, it has been the policy of every administration. You may not like it, you may like it or not like it, doesn't matter. It's been the policy of every administration, the public policy, maybe not the de facto policy, the public policy of every administration for the last 40 years that Iran is not going to get a bomb. Even Obama was saying that. Now, whether they were doing other things is something different, which we'll get to in a second. But the point is, there is nuclear material there now. I suspect we don't really know what level they were enriching. If they want nuclear power, as Trump has talked about over the last couple of days, we could potentially send them some of this material. They don't have to enrich it themselves. We've already taken care of the ballistic missiles. So we've done a tremendous amount of work already, which is why Trump gave the speech last night and said that we're trying to wrap up the military part of this. But in some sense, what you're seeing here is a failure of American policy. I think we do have to acknowledge that if you have years of presidents just saying, Iran, don't do this, don't, red line, can't have it, but then they can do whatever they want, and we quite literally give them cash to do it, then eventually everyone knows that you are a paper tiger, right? That you threaten people or you demand things from people, but you never have the will to do anything about it. So let's jump. This video was going crazy viral yesterday in light of Trump's comments. This video is from 2016, and here is Barack Obama, then President Barack Obama, talking about how we're monitoring Iran's nuclear supply chain because they're never going to get a weapon, and let's just give them some cash at the same time and see what happens.
So the bottom line is this: whereas Iran was steadily expanding its nuclear program, we have now cut off every single path that Iran could have used to build a bomb. Whereas it would have taken Iran 2 to 3 months to break out with enough material to rush to a bomb, we've now extended that breakout time to a year. And with the world's unprecedented inspections and access to Iran's program, we'll know if Iran ever tries to break out. Now that Iran's actions have been verified, it can begin to receive relief from certain nuclear sanctions and gain access to its own money that had been frozen. And perhaps most important of all, we've achieved this historic progress through diplomacy.
Okay, so what happened then? Well, boatloads, quite literally truckloads and plane loads of money were sent to Iran. Did Iran do anything for their people? Did they scale back the terrorism? Did they stop their quest for nukes or anything else? Of course not. Everyone knows that. Obviously not. Also, this idea that we should trust, that we, particularly us, the United States, as the world's last superpower, that we should just trust UN inspectors. They're just going to wander in, and the Iranians are going to be like, come on in, would you like some tea? How about some, what have we been ordering for lunch from the Iranian place? What are some of the dishes, the delicious dishes? Would you, chicken juja? Or juja, that sounds weird. Jew, what now? No, yeah, and some of the others, the hummus and the other stuff, like they've got that. No, you can't trust these people. So Obama, in essence, said, okay, we're going to give sanction relief. You're going to be about 2 to 3 months away from bomb. We'll push it to a year. We're going to give you a ton of cash. And then we subsequently found out that over the years, they just kept building up their war machine as opposed to doing anything to, let's say, come more in line with the modern world. Here is Trump, now back to the speech from last night. And I think this was probably the most important part of the entire thing. Trump talking about how from day one of Trump getting involved in politics the way that he has said Iran will never get a bomb and that they are a threat to America.
From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen, and neither should any of our past presidents.
All right, so everything that Trump said there is true from day one, 11 years ago when he announced he was running for president. He said Iran was not going to get a nuke. When he talks about the nuclear shield right there, what he's saying is that if we let them get nukes or get pretty damn close to it, and they had all of the ballistic missiles to threaten all of their neighbors and had a much better defense system, what would be an imminent threat would be too late at that point. If you only went in when it was imminent, meaning tomorrow they're ready to nuke Europe or do God knows what, you have to do it beforehand. So what Trump is doing is completely ideologically consistent, not only with what he's said for the last 11 years, but it's what he has said for the last 40-something years, right? We've shown you videos in the last 2 weeks from as far back as 1981 was one of them, 1987. I mean, he's been talking about this for a long time. And when you listen to Trump in that video, and you contrast that with what Obama did. Obama said, we'll trust UN inspectors and we'll give you guys cash. And how did that work out? Now note, Trump did not go after the Iranian people at all. He's consistently talking about the regime, and now most of that top layer of the regime is gone. But Trump also made, I thought this was a great point too, because the frustration that a certain set of people, let's say the people on the left, they're going to be frustrated no matter what, right? A symptom of Trump derangement syndrome is if Donald Trump believes something, you have to believe the opposite. Fine, let's move them aside for a minute. A certain set of people, I would say a minority, well, it's absolutely a minority, but a very loud minority, particularly on Twitter, is a group of people that keep saying that Trump said no forever wars, Trump said no forever wars, and he did say no forever wars. So Trump did something very clever last night. I would say this is equally as clever as at his State of the Union when he asked the Democrats to stand up if you're for American citizens, and they didn't. He knows that a certain set of the base is upset about wars in general. Donald Trump never promised no wars. He never promised no military action. He promised America first, to use American military for America's interests, which I believe, and obviously he believes he's doing here. But here he lays out that we're roughly 30 days into this thing, and let's listen to how many days some other wars took.
World War I lasted 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days. World War II lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 25 days. The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat.
All right, so I think it was really important what he did right there, because what he's saying to the pure isolationists or the radical anti-war people, which, as I keep saying, it's sort of just an immature position. Everyone in their hearts doesn't want war. Not everyone, but you get it. Like, people don't want war, but you have to have a credible threat of war, or you have to have a credible military to make sure people don't want war on you. To just say, if America was just like, I'm anti-war, that's it, we're never going to have war, we're not going to have a military, well then obviously bad things would happen. It's like, that's just like 7th grade stuff, guys. So for him to read those numbers and talk about the years and years and years and days that we were in all of these other wars. Guys, we're 32 days into this thing. And what did he just say? But you don't have to trust me on it. Trust him on it. Or don't trust him on it. Call him out on it in 2 to 3. He said 2 to 3 weeks of more bombing as we negotiate. So let's say about 3 weeks from now will be what? That'll be basically the end of April, right? And then we'll see where we are at. And I suspect, as I've said all along, that because Donald Trump deserves our trust at this point, because he's been so directionally right about so much of this stuff, that we will be in a better spot. And even if the people we're negotiating with right now, if they don't turn out to be the right people, he will find the right people. So I think that was a really effective move. And I would hope that even for some of my audience, if you're more on the side of never war, anti-war, whatever, which again, I'm not for war, right? But just being anti-war is it's not a thoughtful position, really, if you think about it. It's just not. But hopefully, he will wrap this thing up, and some people that maybe were a little apoplectic about all of this, or the Alex Joneses screaming about this is going to be nuclear holocaust, thermonuclear World War III, maybe they'll go, boy, in about 50 days, Donald Trump took out the #1 state sponsor of terror, completely got rid of their nuclear program. They attacked 13 of their neighboring countries. He removed their ballistic missiles, destroyed their ability to send drones, made sure that they're not going to fund terrorism all over the world. And it took us 50 days, and maybe I wish that didn't happen because I don't like war, but it ended up being pretty good. I suspect that's what's going to happen here. Trump, 5 minutes before his speech, posted this on Truth Social. I'm not going to read the entire article, but can we link to it in the description? A New York Post article by my friend, the great Douglas Murray, and the article is entitled "Douglas Murray, Deranged Tucker Carlson Backstabs Trump," and it's Douglas at his just absolute best, laying out all of the ways that Tucker Carlson for the last, it's really been for the entirety of the administration, but Douglas is really focusing on the last few months, how Tucker Carlson has tried to hamper and cut Donald Trump's Achilles heel and turn the base against him and all of this. And clearly Donald Trump last night, to post that 5 minutes before he went on stage to give that speech, to then make the point that this is not a forever war, it's a 32-day war that we're in right now that we're trying to extricate ourselves from. I think that was a real a smackdown of Tucker. And now I just want to do one other thing, because my hope is at the end of this that I don't have to mention Tucker again. I've never gotten any joy out of it. And the other one who I've really gotten no joy out of talking about is Megyn Kelly. But I want to show you this video because Erin Molan, who I've had her on the show a few times, she's a brilliant Australian pundit, commentator, etc. She's just spectacular. Here she points out sort of the hypocrisy of what Megyn has done during this war. And I think it's important. And then my hope is that I just won't have to mention her again on the show.
We need to know exactly who talked him into it and what representations were made to convince the president that this was a good idea. Who specifically? The names we know are Bibi Netanyahu first and foremost, Lindsey Graham equally to blame.
Again, and gosh, given her line of work, it's bizarre that I continually have to remind Megyn Kelly that you said this on camera.
Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush have all said that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. They can't. It's just this president, forgive me, but he had the balls to actually do something about it. Big balls. It's Trump.
If you're going to do a complete turn from one point to another for clicks, is that even the way you click anymore? I know the old school mouses you would click, but I guess people are more clicking on their phones or scrolling. But either or, maybe just do the live circuit. Just travel around live and say, no cameras, no recording, no filming. This is off the record. And then when you decide to completely run in an entirely different direction and leave your values and morals at the door, it's not as obvious.
Yeah, Erin's just great. She's like a better version of Megyn that they've got in Australia. Look, I really mean this. I'm going to try not to talk about her after this, and these things come across my desk every day, like, oh, this hypocrisy and this stupidity and whatever. I think this can kind of be the end of it, because what that illustrates there is not a set of principles. Look, you can get things wrong. You can get predictions wrong. I get predictions wrong. I think I said on the show a few weeks ago that I really didn't think that the Strait of Hormuz was going to be closed. It never was officially closed, but it was largely closed. It's open. We're literally getting breaking information on that right now, on it reopening. But just hold that for a second. You can get some predictions wrong, but in a course of those, in that little video right there, what you saw is, on one hand, a very shrill, angry Megyn Kelly saying that Donald Trump basically doesn't have his own mind, right? People come in, Bibi Netanyahu and Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin come in, and they confuse him, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he's not in charge of anything. And then you can just go back months ago where she's saying, literally as it relates to Iran, that he has big balls, he's going to do the things, he's in charge and everything else. That's not political analysis. Like that's just propaganda. And I think it's important to understand that. That is very different than getting a prediction wrong, or choosing a politician that you think is going to win an election and it gets wrong, or getting a factual piece of information wrong and then hopefully correcting yourself. So I think it is worth noting, and for all of the people that keep doing this, that somehow after all of this, after all we've been through for the last decade, that you think Donald Trump is not in charge, that Donald Trump is not making the decisions, it's patently absurd. And just frankly, I just don't think you should be following people that are pushing that sort of propaganda on you. As it relates to the Strait of Hormuz, this just happened in the last 2 minutes, I think. Iran is now drafting a protocol with Oman to formalize monitoring and ensure safe passage for vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, according to a report from Iran's IRNA news agency. Iranian officials frame the move as a coordination effort rather than a restriction, and the goal here, the agreement aims to coordinate and manage traffic rather than impose restrictions, providing better services to passing ships. I'll just give you a little bit more context. This initiative comes amid heightened security concerns in the region and attempts to ensure safe navigation through the strategic choke point. Okay, so there's obviously some more breaking news on that. We'll find out as it comes, but it sounds like Oman and whoever is now in charge of Iran are going to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Again, they never fully closed. You can see all these cool animated maps of how the traffic used to be before the war, and then it did thin out a little bit, and now it's going to open up again. But this is diplomacy, because it is backed by a credible threat. Instead of, we would like to give you some cash and we'll send in some UN people and see what happens. No, we said we are the leader of the world again, and we are going to exert our power so that the world will bend more towards America's actual interests, which I think is America first and completely consistent with everything Donald Trump has said for a long time. Let's jump back to Scott Jennings, because he was on a different show on CNN, and there's another Navarro. It's not Anna Navarro. There's another. They said, we have one Navarro. She's not bad enough. Can we find a Navarro that is as bad, if not worse, than Anna Navarro? And they did. There's a woman named Lulu Garcia-Navarro. And here's Scott Jennings explaining Trump's policy. And Lulu, well, you tell me if this is insight worth paying attention to.
Agree with you. Most people believe Iran is a bad actor. They've been a bad actor for 47 years. If we defang them and we bring some stability to the Middle East and the world by this action, I think over time the American people will think it was a good decision.
LOL. Sorry.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
I know it's not your age group, but laugh out loud.
Is that a serious response to a serious answer?
It is a serious response.
Why?
To what
are those not worthy objectives?
Can I finish? What wasn't a serious answer, which is this. The last thing that has been brought is stability to the Middle East. What we have seen, in fact, is a chaotic incursion, misadventure into Iran, which has led the entire region to be inflamed with no end in sight. This is a disaster for the region, and it has been a disaster for the American people because they have had to pay for this war.
LMAO. That's my response to that. We take away their missiles, we take away their Navy, we take away their Air Force, and we take away their capability of getting nuclear weapons. They have missiles that can reach most of Europe. And if you want to leave them in place to do all that for another 47 years,
Are they not
that's
still
a choice.
I can't believe it, but Anna Navarro may not be the worst Navarro on the network. I don't know how they did it. It's almost impossible how they came up with this woman. I feel like they just that wasn't a real woman. They just made her up. They made up a person. They were like, call her Navarro. We'll see what happens. It'll make the other Navarro better. No one will run. Look, again, he's just pointing out the obvious. We are taking out the world leader of terrorism. We're taking out a country that quite literally, she's concerned about what's happening to the other countries in the area. Well, why is it that if Iran was so good and the other countries were so thrilled with what Iran is doing, why did Iran decide to shoot rockets at about a dozen other countries, not just pesky Israel, right? 12 other Arab Gulf, largely Muslim states. Why did they do that if everyone loves them so much? Why is it that Lebanon, which at one time should have been Beirut, they wanted it to be the Paris of the Middle East. Lebanon has been run by Hezbollah, which is an Iranian proxy. So Lebanon's government is not really the government of Lebanon. It's actually an Iranian proxy terrorist group, right, which has killed plenty of Americans. So you think that people are not happy as we are taking out the main bad guy here. But Lady Navarro, hopefully we're never gonna have to see you again, but your problem is you have Trump derangement syndrome. So if Donald Trump does something good that the people of the Middle East are now rallying around, and again, mark my words, peace deals are coming. There are going to be new peace deals signed. And I bet you it's before the midterms, because Trump has made this clear that the world is going to pay attention to America again. Lady, you're going to be proven wrong. It's just fairly obvious. But for some of the people that are still confused, what were the goals here? Has anyone laid out the goals? Why can't someone just tell us the goals? Can someone sit at a desk in a nice suit and calmly lay out exactly what we are doing? Here's Marco Rubio.
So it is clear that they've been offered every opportunity to have a nuclear program that allows them to have energy, not weapons. And every single time they have turned it down. But why the attack now? Well, what was Iran trying to do? Iran was trying to build a conventional shield, in essence, have so many missiles, have so many drones that no one could attack them, and they were well on their way. We were on the verge of an Iran that had so many missiles and so many drones that no one could do anything about their nuclear weapons program in the future. That was an intolerable risk. Under no circumstances can a country run by radical Shia clerics with an apocalyptic vision of the future ever possess nuclear weapons. And under no circumstances can they be allowed to hide and protect that program and their ambitions behind a shield of missiles and drones that no one can do anything about. This was our last best chance to eliminate that conventional threat, that conventional shield that they were trying to build, and the president made the right decision to wipe it out now. That is the goal of this operation, to destroy their conventional missiles and their drone program so they can't hide behind it and finally have to deal with the world seriously about never, ever having nuclear weapons.
Okay, so again, not only is that just consistent with everything Donald Trump has said for 40 plus years, but we will clip that video, and when your friends over the next days and weeks and months are saying, why did we do this? That's the answer. That's the answer right there. As several people have pointed out over the last couple of days, and I think it's worth noting, once you have nukes as a nation, you create, if you're a hostile nation, right? If you're a hostile nation, you create a situation where basically no one can do anything, because then there will be nuclear war, and they're going to fire a nuke, and you're going to fire a nuke, and we're all going to die, right? The idea of us in World War II dropping 2 nuclear bombs on Japan was, we are going to end this war now. And that's exactly what it did. But think about it this way. North Korea has nukes, right? And they have now isolated themselves from the rest of the world. If years ago it could have been dealt with before they could have got nukes, perhaps there would be more negotiations with them. But now you can't really threaten the guys with nukes. And this is this is also consistent with what I've said about Russia. The problem with the Ukraine-Russia thing is you got to show me the amount of stuff that we have to give Ukraine to win that war. How many planes do they need? How many trucks do they need? How many tanks do they need? How many soldiers? How much cash? And the reason no one can give you that number, well, A, there's a money laundering operation obviously happening with that entire war. But the other thing is there's no number. There's no number of tanks and planes and cash and everything else that you could add up that would defeat the nukes that Russia has. So Rubio is laying it out quite clearly. You have an apocalyptic regime, which is exactly what they are. I mean, their main goal in parliament in Iran was chanting death to America, the big Satan, right? And now, well, we've decapitated them, and we will see what the AAA guys are able to negotiate, and I have a feeling it's going to be pretty good, but let's pick it up. Well, we'll keep talking about it, but in 2 to 3 weeks, as Donald Trump said, the major military part of this will be over as the negotiations happen, and we will see, and I suspect it will not be a forever war or anything even remotely close to it, as Donald Trump has promised. Another thing Donald Trump has promised, let's shift a little bit, is that we are going to end birthright citizenship, at least in the current form that it is in right now, because it has become a situation that has been hugely abused by people who are coming to America for birthplace tourism, for people that get here illegally and then have a kid and everything else. But now the Supreme Court has chimed in, so let's get you caught up. This from Fox. This week, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments in what could be one of the most significant cases of the 21st century, birthright citizenship. Before the court is whether the Trump executive order that ends birthright citizenship complies with the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment after multiple judges blocked the order from taking effect as it was litigated. The 14th Amendment, Section 1 of the Constitution states, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And its history. The 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868 in response to the end of the Civil War and the 1857 Dred Scott decision, which concluded that enslaved people and their children were not American citizens and thus had no rights and couldn't sue in federal court, amongst other things. Now, there's a couple things here. The main one is that Donald Trump is trying in his remaining time as president, which he's got 2.5 years, although if the Republicans lose the midterms, Trump's lame duck, you're going to see Republicans bail. So he's really, for now, he has to view it as he's got, 6 months basically till November. And then if the Republicans do well, then he's got 2 years to just do absolutely everything, like Donald Trump Unchained, and we'll see what happens then. But one of the big things, obviously, borders and deportation and birthright citizenship, these things are all connected. And it just seems obvious to me that this system has been abused horrifically. Joseph just mentioned to me that when he's been on various flights back from China to the United States, that often he sees a lot, what you said, a lot of women, like a disproportionate amount of very late-term pregnant women coming from China to the United States. So think about that. Let's say, put aside China, just take any country of choice, and a woman's just on vacation, 7 months pregnant, from anywhere. Doesn't matter. China, Uruguay, Pakistan, or Connor? Senegal. And she's at Disneyland with her other kids, and she just gives birth. Should that child, that Senegalese child, also be American? Like, it doesn't make any sense. We all know it doesn't make any sense. Here's Trump explaining how the laws have been taken advantage of.
We're the only country in the world that has, we have a big case to be coming in the Supreme Court that had to do with the babies of slaves after the Civil War. And instead of that, it's being used as a way for rich countries and thousands of people from China coming in and getting citizenship for people within their family. This is not what they meant when they did.
Right. I think it is fairly obvious, and the founders could have never envisioned a situation where we'd be letting in people, birth tourism in essence, to come here, to give birth here, and then that child magically gets citizenship. That is a far cry from any reason that the 14th Amendment was passed or anything else. Now, one of the problems that we're going to have as it relates to these Supreme Court decisions is that Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was nominated by Joe Biden because she's a black woman, that's what he said. To me, that's not a qualification to be a Supreme Court justice. I would say a thorough knowledge of the Constitution would be pretty good. A respect for and understanding of the laws that govern us, that would be pretty good. She doesn't seem to have much of that, and she doesn't seem to be too bright either. Here is video of Ketanji Brown Jackson's case for birthright citizenship, and it's a doozy. Enjoy.
I was thinking about this, and I think there are various sources that say this, that you obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign. And I was thinking, I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law? Even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense.
That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. As a matter of fact, can we take that clip and put the Billy Madison? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're all stupider for having listened to it. All right, we're going to put that up in a few minutes. She's basically equating an illegal giving birth in the United States to the crime of stealing a wallet in Japan. I mean, it's completely backwards. Mazemore, who's a great follow, he does a ton of great memes that we play on the show often. He, I think, summed it up quite nicely here. I got pulled over by the police once in Mexico. That means I'm Mexican. Now I have to go tell my kids that they are Mexican too. I mean, it's so profoundly absurd. She sounds dumb. She sounds really dumb. Like, we really stepped in it. We really stepped in it with this one because she is a far left activist who is not qualified, is not particularly bright, and that is one of the thinnest arguments I have ever heard. You want to figure out a way to connect this to the 14th Amendment and as it relates to the children of slaves and figure out something to somehow make the argument fine. But somehow combining this to the local jurisdiction of Japan when you steal a wallet, absurd. Will Cain over on Fox, here he is breaking down some of the numbers as it relates to how many kids are now being brought here by migrants, or how many pregnant people are coming, giving birth here, and then the kids are now citizens of the United States.
About birth tourism. It's booming. In 2023, over 300,000 babies were born to unauthorized or legal temporary immigrant mothers. Add that in total. It's 9% of the U.S. births in that given year. When we look at how that shakes out over time, a clear spike in the number of births to unauthorized immigrant mothers in the United States from 2019 to 2023. That's unprecedented. It's unforeseen. It's undeniable. But Chief Justice Roberts, unconvinced.
It certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but of course, we're in a new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out, to where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
Ooh, John Roberts. Everyone wants him to be better than he is, and he's just not great. Well, it is the same Constitution, and I do think that we should be as strict with our the way we analyze the Constitution as possible. But if you cannot acknowledge that there is a huge problem now as it pertains to, I don't know, we just got out of 4 years of having one party that tried to completely decimate our border. The numbers that Will Cain laid out are completely insane. 9% of all births in the United States in 2023, 9% of all births, which was 320,000 births, were to not necessarily illegals, because some of them they had like temporary visas or whatever it is, but to people that are not permanent U.S. citizens. 10% of all births. So let's say someone comes here, gets a temporary visa, and they're a housekeeper, let's say. Perfectly nice person, working hard, trying to make a better life for themselves and everything else. And then they have sex here with anybody. It doesn't even matter who. It's not for birth tourism. They just have a one-night stand one night. And then 9 months later, they have a kid here. Should that kid be American? I mean, it simply doesn't make sense. I've tried to use Charlie Kirk clips I would say in a very measured way since Charlie was assassinated. There's been so many people that have that I think have taken advantage of old clips of Charlie for their own political purposes. But I thought this was pretty perfect. This is Charlie being asked about birth citizenship. And well, he lays it out as only Charlie could.
If you think you can just get on a Delta Airlines flight from Paris
and all of a sudden your kid becomes a U.S. citizen, that devalues the meaning of what it is to be a citizen.
Should we hold the children who do not choose to come here accountable for their parents' actions? There are some countries that...
Well,
like,
if you're already a citizen, you're a citizen. We're not going to revoke what's
right,
already
but once
happened.
if it becomes overturned, do we want to create second-class citizens who aren't a citizen of another country?
Yes, they're citizens of another country. Go back to your own country.
Except if they come from India, they come here and a child is born. That child is not a citizen of India, nor would they be a citizen of here. Then you have
No, they are a citizen of India. That's not
They're
true.
not.
Yes, they are. The parents are Indian citizens, and that's how it works in India. Is that the citizenship goes to the parents. So that's the point. Is that they can go back to their own country, and they can go live in India.
So the children should be deported as soon as they're born here.
Yes, with their parents, absolutely.
You don't think that we should give them? We shouldn't encourage them to become productive members of
No.
American society?
No.
Do you believe in the American dream?
Yes, of course, for American citizens, not for every
Oh, I
person around the
agree.
planet.
Man, Charlie was too good. It was like, of all the people that got taken from us. I mean, it's a perfect explanation. He does it respectfully. You know, the young guy there, you can see he's a little confused about the issues. It doesn't make sense, right? So you're a couple from India. You decide she's 7 months pregnant. Let's go to America. She happens to give birth. So the kid then becomes American. And then in essence, what the kid was arguing is the parents should have that right too, because you wouldn't want to separate them. Charlie's not saying, oh, keep the kid here and boot them back. No, they're all, or the kid's just not going to have citizenship of anywhere. That's what the kid implied. He was obviously mistaken on that. That, you know, if a Indian couple comes to America and is born here, that he's not Indian. No, the citizenship is attached to the parents. No, you send them all back to India of where they are citizens. So there's just such confusion here, and I'm telling you, this is another look as the Iran war wraps up. You guys know, we're in a story, right? There's always an endless story being told. And as the Iran war wraps up, and I think it will wrap up nicely, and we're going to get those peace deals and things of that nature, I think the birthright citizenship thing is going to become hot again. I think the border stuff is going to become hot again. I think ICE stuff is going to become hot again. And we will see where all that shakes out. Well, we'll also connect it to the SAVE Act. And there's a lot going on with that right now. But first, Mars Men. At some point, things can start feeling a little bit off. Your energy isn't the same, workouts feel harder, and it's tougher to stay focused. One day you feel sharp, the next day you're dragging. That's where Mars Men comes in. It's designed to help your body use testosterone it already makes because some of it can get locked up and not fully used. With regular use, some men report more steady, natural energy and a higher drive throughout the day. It's made with natural ingredients, no needles, and it's made in the USA with third-party testing. Plus, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no real risk trying it. For a limited time, our viewers get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. All right, so, you know, the kid that we just showed you arguing with Charlie, it seems, you know, like this is, you want to say he's a bad guy, he's an idiot or something. No, he has a bit of what Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy, right? He thinks that just because someone is born here, that they should get citizenship, but he doesn't want to think through what that actually means. Will they culturally fit? First, number one, is there any logical, sensible right to it? Will they fit here culturally? Can a country survive if it just lets everyone who so happens to be born here for whatever reason become a citizen? Like the litany of things. Will those people end up on welfare and take from the system more than they put into the system, et cetera? You can see what that suicidal empathy does. Another piece of suicidal empathy is that it allows people in who don't match our American values. And our American values are individual rights, and they are law and order, and they are the pursuit of happiness and things of that nature. So now I want to go to this story is so nuts out of Rhode Island, but that it's perfect. It's just perfect of everything that is wrong with everything right now. As you guys know, back in August, there was a beautiful young woman. She happened to be a Ukrainian refugee named Iryna Zarutska, who was murdered in cold blood on the Charlotte Light Rail. She was stabbed, and the guy, it happened to be a black guy who did it, and when he stabbed her, what did he say? What was the line that he said? Like that, I got you, white girl, something to that effect. Yeah. Okay. Stabbed her for no reason. She just bled out and died. On the light rail there. So in Providence, Rhode Island, over the last couple weeks, a mural was painted, a quite beautiful mural was painted on a wall downtown in Providence. It has now been removed, painted of Iryna. Well, take a look.
Well, Emily, Jean, it's still here, but not for long. Artist Ian Gaudreau tells me he's sad it's come to this point, but after calls from Mayor Smiley and other local leaders to remove the mural, it felt like only a matter of time before this happened.
The artwork is going to be removed.
Artist Ian Gaudreau breaking the news to NBC 10 Monday afternoon. The Iryna Zarutska mural is coming down.
A lot of people voiced their frustrations, and voices were heard, and the work is coming down as a reaction.
All right, so this story is just so crazy. So the artist creates quite an exquisite, very large, a very labor-intensive illustration mural of Iryna Zarutska, who was murdered in cold blood. She's the victim of this thing. For some reason, the people of Providence think that that's either offensive or wrong, it doesn't match their values, et cetera, and now it is being taken down. All she was someone who was an innocent young person who was murdered in cold blood, and he was trying to honor her, the artist. But people were not happy about that. This shows you a bit of the sort of moral confusion that we seem to be dealing with in the country. Here is Providence Mayor Brett Smiley on the mural coming down.
You said the intent behind these murals is divisive and does not represent Providence. The murals artist sort of feels like he was stifled. Do you have any regrets about what you said and how you handled it?
I regret the state of where we are in politics today, where absolutely everything is political and controversial and hard. A private owner of a building decided to put a mural up that I don't think he understood the full context of, and I was asked whether I thought it should come down, and I thought it should. Didn't stifle anyone's speech. It was his decision whether to continue with it or to take it down, but it certainly wasn't bringing us together as a community. There was really angry protests on both sides, a lot of hate speech online, and so I don't think we're a stronger, more united community because of this mural, and I thought the best thing to do was to just take it down.
But to be clear, the city never directed the artist or the business to take the mural down.
Or to put it up. This was a private building owner and a private artist that made a decision to hang this thing, and then they decided to reverse course.
What a pathetic asexual loser. Does that all count on the words of things that I'm not saying right now? Like, what a nothing you are. Now, I'll take his word for it that the state didn't commission the thing and the state didn't force him to take it down. So I'll take their word for it. So this isn't an issue about the state, which would then be a free speech issue, right? The fact that it was a private building, the guy commissions the artist to do it. There's nothing controversial about it or anything else, but it started, then suddenly there was hate speech. It certainly wasn't bringing us together. I'm sorry that there are a bunch of lunatics obviously running around Providence, Rhode Island who see a mural of someone who got murdered in cold blood and are upset by that, and that the intent is divisive. To honor the victim of a crime is divisive? Like nothing. You are nothing, man. This guy's not going anywhere in politics, so I don't think we'll have to talk about him much more. But here is now, I don't know what the hell's going on in Providence. What is going on up there? Here is Rhode Island Representative David Morales saying that the mural of Iryna Zarutska, the woman who was murdered in cold blood because she was white on the Charlotte Light Rail, it doesn't reflect their values.
Ultimately, we want to make sure that every community member that calls Providence home feels safe, and we can both agree that this mural behind us does not reflect Providence's values, nor does it reflect the creativity that we want.
What the What are you saying? You want everyone to feel safe. Who walked by that mural and then didn't feel safe? Are you talking about racist, murderous black people who would be like, I was about to kill a white woman, and this is offensive to me because they're honoring the white woman, and I don't want the white woman that I'm going to randomly kill to have a painting. Like, completely insane. This is what they're afraid of. That's her. That's her about a half second before she was murdered, and we're not going to show you the video, and just bled out on the light rail. And this is what we're up against. This is what we're up against. You might be listening to this story going, Dave, this isn't like national news, and it's not the Iran war, and it's not birthright citizenship, but it illustrates what is so wrong with things at a local level. What is going on in places like Providence? What's going on in these little blue cities where they quite literally will honor terrorists, they will honor people who kick, Jewish kids off Columbia campus, And then if you try to honor or pay homage to someone who's murdered in cold blood, it doesn't reflect the values of the community. These people are insane. And speaking of insane, James Carville, who was once one of the most influential Democratic strategists in America. He was Bill Clinton's right-hand man. I smacked him around pretty good when we were on Real Time with Bill Maher. Here he is with some thoughtful political analysis.
Listen to me, Trump. I'm going to tell you fat ass something. You're getting ready to get the living crap kicked out of you. You don't know because they haven't really told you. And let me tell you something. They're gonna start breaking the news to you kind of gently, and you're gonna sit there and wonder what it feels like to be punched in the mouth by Mike Tyson. Now, let's talk about your future, your post-November future. First, people are not going to return your phone calls. Democrats are going to investigate you to no end. Then they're going to start going after you. Then they're going to start figuring out where all the money stolen is. Then they're going to go after you stupid jackass kids and their spouses and all the other bullshit that you see. And they're going to investigate out of you. And then when it comes to this stuff you're doing in Iran, I got to tell you, you're getting really, really, really close to war crimes here.
These people are actually psychotic and dangerous. I mean, first off, what a perfect example of how if you just have hatred in your heart, it literally like turns your face into something miserable. Like he just looks like a miserable old troll. But he's warning. He's warning us, actually. Trump doesn't need the warning. He's warning all of us. He's saying if the Democrats take power, they're going to impeach him. They will hunt and hound him and his family members and his administration. They will jail people. These are all the things that are consistent with everything else they are saying. So Donald Trump better damn well make sure that well, it's not up to Trump, but we all better make sure that the Republicans do not lose the midterms, because we will be handing it to a bunch of completely crazy people, although you might call them sick people.
It's a shame. They should really just go to a filibuster. They should terminate the filibuster, and they should vote. That's what I think. Look, I think the Senate is playing it too soft. The Republicans are wonderful people, but we're dealing with very sick individuals. The Democrats are sick. There's something wrong. They're like terrorists, and we have to protect our country. We have to protect our border. We have to protect our wall. It was up to them, they'd open up the wall, they'd let millions of people pour into our country again, and we've all been through that. And I don't care if you're liberal or you're conservative.
He's right, and it doesn't matter if you're liberal or you're conservative. Do you think America should exist, yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then we should have a border. And mark my words, if the Democrats have the power again, they will open up the border. Why wouldn't they? They will flood the election with illegals. Why wouldn't they? They would pack the Supreme Court. Why wouldn't they? Every norm. They spent 4 years under an autopan with dementia destroying every single norm, but they basically ran out of time, thank God, right? Things often don't move as fast as even the most radicals want. After Trump, because also try to imagine a Republican Party after Trump, even if it's Rubio and or Vance or some combination of like some pretty decent people, Trump is a force like none other. So the idea that any of those guys will be able to coalesce all the competing interests is going to be tough. It is going to be tough. So they're telling you everything they are going to do, and well, we got a certain amount of time to stop it. One more from Scott Jennings. Here he is talking about how ridiculous the mail-in ballot scheme is. And once again, Abby Phillip, who there's just nothing there, she downplays it.
I did Google like mail-in ballot problems. I mean, there's a lot of headlines, nearly 100,000 New York City voters get ballot envelopes meant for someone else. Get 2 ballots, here's what to do. Woman says she got 16 ballots at her house. I mean, it's not like this is. It's not like these things are foolproof things. And so,
voter fraud
having it a little more
voter fraud
efficient could be good.
Is rare, and it has not been sufficient to overturn the results of federal elections, certainly. And when those things happen, to your point, you're reading some headlines. They're getting caught. They're getting identified.
Man, we should have a body language expert study her, the way she looks down as she's saying it. You know, Joe Biden, how many votes did Joe Biden get during the COVID election? 81 million, if I'm not mistaken. If you look at how many votes did Barack Obama get in his 2 elections and how many did Trump get in his elections, like it was over. Biden got about 15 million more votes in that crazy COVID mail-in election. You're telling me there was no fraud there? It's completely absurd. So you have a bunch of people who want mail-in ballots, who want drop boxes, who want illegals, who want people to not have IDs and everything else. And at the height of all of the fever dream lunacy of COVID, Joe Biden, who nobody liked, the most rabid Democrat didn't think that Joe Biden was great. He wasn't radical enough for the radicals. The average person knew there was something wrong with him, and he somehow got 15 million more votes than Barack Obama ever got, right? Like, think about that. That is completely insane. But to the point that Abby made, that illegal voting and vote tampering, it's rare. Well, if it's rare, then why don't we just deal with it? Right? If it's not a huge problem, if it's just a small problem, it seems like we should just get on it, deal with it, and move on. Here's J.D. Vance making that point.
Just this week, ICE arrested an illegal immigrant. I'm going to read this because I want to make sure I get it right. An illegal immigrant from Mauritania who's voted in 7 federal elections since 2008. And I haven't got good authority that in every single election he voted for Don Davis. No, I don't know about that. I don't know where he voted, but I guarantee it wasn't for us. Okay, it wasn't for America First policies. Now, here's the thing, though. Even if you take the Democrats at their word, even if illegal aliens voting is very rare, then why don't we ban it anyway? It's not that complicated. It is one thing to say, I don't get it. The Democrats say, this never happens, or it happens only very rarely on the one hand, and on the other hand, we must not stop it. It doesn't make a damn bit of sense. We need to get all illegal aliens stopping from voting in our elections. It's very common sense stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's what Republicans, I think, have to consistently do is say, look, we're just for common sense. We're just for common sense. Have an ID, have a border. If it's not much of a problem, let's solve that problem. And I think that over time, with a couple other wins as it relates, as I said, to the war and the economy, and maybe getting the SAVE Act thing through, I think some of that will lead us to some better results in November, but we shall see. Let's talk about Rumble Wallet for a minute, and then we'll get to a RubinReport.locals.com community Q&A. You already know why people are moving to crypto, but here's the issue. Most wallets are still tied to the same system people want to get away from. That's why Rumble built Rumble Wallet. It's a self-custodial wallet in a platform that supports free speech and financial freedom. No bank holding your money, and not even Rumble can access it. This is your money, your keys, your control. You can tip and support creators directly on Rumble quickly without waiting weeks or dealing with account issues. You can also send payments using Bitcoin, Tether Gold, and USAT, so you can move money anywhere, anytime without asking permission. Most wallets just store your crypto. Rumble Wallet lets you actually use it on a platform that doesn't cave to censorship. If you care about control over your money and your voice, this is the next step. Go to wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in the App Store. Download it, back up your recovery phrase, and keep your money where it belongs, in your hands. All right, let's get to a couple questions. We'll do it somewhat quickly, but Joseph is at the computer machine. If you'd like to get something in on the fly at RubinReport.locals.com, iOS and Android apps now available absolutely free. Benjo says, I see the long-term benefit of Maduro and Iran, but worry it's not enough short-term gain as things within the U.S. Would be like gas and oil prices. So you think if he wraps up Iran, enough people will see the benefit in time for the midterms. That's what I've sort of addressed on the show here a couple times now, is that Trump needs wins before the midterms, no matter what. Even if, let's say we weren't in a war with Iran, right? Like any incumbent president rolling into midterms, I keep saying it, but 70% of the time, the incumbent party of the president loses the midterms, right? People just get tired. You want to blame things on the president, blah, blah, blah. So just the basic logic and norms are completely against the president right now. Now, the white pill of this is that the Democrats are so crazy, as Trump says, sick, and so many people acknowledge that the no border thing and the chaos in our cities and the high taxation and all of that. So many people now acknowledge, and the woke stuff and the gender stuff and everything. So many people acknowledge that that's so crazy that I think that the idea that Trump's coalition is going to completely break down Probably not. Now, people also just don't vote. One of the problems with midterms is people get so accustomed, we've created such a cult of personality around the presidency, that people generally do vote in presidential elections and they just don't vote in off-year elections. So if you're the incumbent, if you're a Republican right now, you might be like, we've got Trump, I'm kind of busy that day, it's raining, I'm not gonna go vote. And by the way, Republicans tend to vote in person. While the other side is all ginned up for the revolution. So we just have to get everybody on board. Again, I think there'll be a little bit of a bounce in patriotism because of July 4th, our 250th birthday, and we will see. Kevin says, did you get to see the Artemis launch? Well, I saw some of the clips online. I think we have an image, and did we get the video? Were we able to get the video from the airplane? So that's the launch of Artemis. And check this video out. So someone took this from a plane where they got to see some of the launch. I mean, how can you imagine being in a plane and seeing, like, that's right out of a sci-fi movie? How cool is that? And just a little info on Artemis's objective. So Artemis 2's objective is to send astronauts to the moon to test the Orion spacecraft and ensure that systems are ready for future moon landings. It's crazy. We have not been to the moon since 1963. We have more technology in this little thing that we're all holding and putting in our pocket than we did basically in all of the machinery that took us to the moon in the first place. So as I understand it, we're going to do something like send Artemis to the moon. It's going to use the velocity to basically go around the moon. We're going to see the dark side of the moon and kind of come back. I'm a little behind on the whole story, but it's so cool. And again, like, if you just connect this to all the things that Elon is trying to do, make interplanetary space travel, make it a reality. And then imagine we get to the moon, and then with robots, we can put some robots there, and then robots are able to build robots, and then we have 3D printing, and we can build a space station, and then from there, we can use that as a launching point, and then wherever we get again, we can use that as a launching point. Like, literally Star Wars and Star Trek becoming real in front of our eyes. It's pretty freaking awesome. And we should cover more of those stories, actually, instead of just the mundanity of day-to-day politics. Dan says, why isn't more attention given to the role of sanctuary policies? Since local law enforcement cooperated with ICE, many criminal illegal immigrants would be picked up directly from jails instead of being released back into the streets. That is completely right. You know, you guys may remember was it earlier in this week or was it last week? I think it was on Monday. I saw it on my camera outside my house. Some guy showed up and stole about $200 worth of delivery stuff that had been waiting for us. I contacted my local police chief here. He got on it. They found the guy within an hour. He told me, I asked because I wanted to make sure I could address it for you guys. They immediately check whether the guy's legal. They do a cross-check with ICE. Turned out the guy was legal and did not have a prior criminal record, so he was just happened to be up to no good, I suppose, that morning. But yes, when local law enforcement works with ICE, you need ICE less, right? So if you have somebody that's just speeding down a freeway and bashes into somebody, crashes into somebody, or is doing local petty theft or breaks into a store or whatever it might be, if local law enforcement is working with ICE, well, then they can cross-check, say, oh, well, this guy is being looked for, he is illegal, we know when he got in, blah, 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 blah. And then they can send them to, say, a temporary holding center like we have with Alligator Alcatraz before they get kicked out of the country. Then you actually have less need. That's the thing. In Florida, because we're doing this properly, we have less need for ICE agents because our law enforcement officers are enforcing the law. What a novel thought. How absolutely crazy. Meg says, did you get new cameras? Everything's a little crisper. Meg, you have a great eye. Yes, we just got some of what I'm told are the fanciest Sony cameras in the biz, like top of the line, top cameras. And yes, everything is a little bit crisper. You might notice the colors are a little bit sharper. The contrast, I think, is a little bit higher. There's a little bit of, I don't know if I can do it. Does this work if I do it? Yeah, it kind of does work. There's like some depth stuff that we can now do with the cameras that's really cool. But we invested, they were not cheap, I promise you that. But now, yeah, we're gonna be able to do all sorts of interesting things. And I wanna constantly invest in making this the best looking, most beautiful show that hopefully enlightens you and makes you chuckle every now and again. Lil Fella, have they made a better film than the 10 Commandments? What year did we say? 1959, the 10 Commandments. What was it? 1956. Oh, there you go. You have the original poster. I mean, look, it really, Cecil B. DeMille, It might be the most perfect film. You know, a lot of people will say Citizen Kane, which also, Citizen Kane, if you have not seen Citizen Kane, what year is Citizen Kane? It got to be 1939, something like that. Like, it's pretty spectacular too, you know, 41, golden age of film. Citizen Kane is black and white. But if you have not seen 10 Commandments, especially right now, is, you know, tonight is the second night of Passover. Obviously, Easter is on Sunday. With everything going on in the Middle East and people's confusion about history and everything else, I mean, quite literally basically every Jewish person on earth last night retold the story of the exodus of the Jews from Egypt to the Promised Land, to Israel. You know, there's the 40 years in the desert. It wasn't easy to get there and everything else. So when they tell you these people have no connection to this land, or it's all just nonsense. But it's important, you know, tradition and the ability to retell these stories is what I think connects people to the original source. Sometimes when you're younger, you forget that, and then you relearn it probably when you're middle-aged, something like that. But the movie is spectacular. How long is it? It's got to be at least 3.5 hours, right? About 3.5. If I'm not mistaken, back in the day on ABC when I used to watch it and they would put commercials in when we were kids, they would do it over 2 nights because it was that long. But in any event, if you haven't seen it, maybe we're going to do it tonight or tomorrow. I can't do it tonight. So maybe tomorrow night we're going to do it as a family, and you absolutely should check it out. Nimbus says, John Thune's operating as if we're still in an older political era where some level of decency and good faith. In today's environment, does that make him ineffective, especially on something like the filibuster? And if we're to start playing by the current, more aggressive rules, would that be a necessary correction or act as a catalyst to push future norms into more extreme territory? That is quite a good question. I think you know my feelings on this. Look, if you had anything resembling a decent Democrat party, if you could show me a handful of Democrats that cared about the rule of law, that I could disagree with them on all the policies. I could disagree with them on foreign policy. I could disagree with them on taxes. I could disagree with them on virtually everything. But if you could show me 5 Democrats that have any influence over the party that aren't trying to burn it all down, then maybe we could have that discussion. But when you have one party that semi-functions, a Republican Party, which, by the way, as I said earlier, when Trump is gone, we have no idea what the Republican Party is going to look like. But you have one party that basically at least likes America, basically works. And then you have another party that has gone off the deep end in complete totality. Maybe you have to do some extreme things like get rid of the talking filibuster and pass some things with a simple majority. Because at the end of the day, if you don't use power when you have it, and you hopefully use it for good, and I get why the argument then is, well, then everyone thinks they're doing good and we're going to destroy all the norms. Like, I get it. But if you don't, like, think where we'll be. Let's try it this way. Think how much worse things will be if the Democrats were to take over in the midterms. What absolutely happens? They absolutely, every single day, will be talking about Trump impeachment. It won't even matter what they're impeaching him for. That is what they will do. They have said it, they will do it. They will ultimately try to get rid of the talking filibuster, and they will try to do things with a simple majority. Don't take my word for it. Take their word for it. What did that lunatic, James Carville, just say? They're going to come for Trump, and they're going to come for his children and all of those things. So I would take their word for it. And if that means that John Thune better get a backbone like a ramrod, as that old auto pen used to say, well, then maybe he should. Miranda, this is a nice way to end. Miranda says, what are 3 things you're grateful for this Passover? So we did the Seder last night at my sister's house with all the kids. It was a very kid-friendly Seder. There were crayons and games and toys and frogs, and all of the 10 plagues were acted out and all kinds of stuff. I mean, you know, it's kind of the obvious ones, you know, family, obviously, you know, and I'll include friends in that, family and friends. Health, you know, I'm at the ripe old age of 49. I'm feeling really good these days, and I've been on a real journey, eating right, exercising, taking care of my health, doing that kind of thing. Family, health. Wow, this is going to sound corny, but it's true. I mean, it's America. Like, I am deeply, deeply grateful for this place. We live in the best place in the world. You know, people in almost every other country in the world would go, man, if I could move to America, I would. And Americans, even the ones that hate this place, they don't want to leave. Nobody leaves. They threaten to leave. The Hollywood people, the Democrats, I'm going to leave. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go to Canada. It's like nobody leaves. because we have it so damn good that we kind of forget how good we have it. And again, it is on us, those of us who love this thing and realize how precious and rare it is, to make sure it don't go nowhere, as they say. That is my job. That is your job. I thank you for watching. Post-game show in 30 seconds. RubinReport.locals.com. See you tomorrow.
So if it doesn't happen, I'm blaming J.D. Vance. If it does happen, I'm taking full credit.